Welcome to the news update for Dune Awakening, with many exciting details and first gameplay scenes. It's time to wake up again, sleepers! Rub the sand out of your eyes, because we got exciting news and first gameplay material for Dune Awakening. So buckle up, because it's going to be sandy. Art director Richard Cort, or simply Rich, has faced his fear of sandworms and taken us into the dusty depth of the development process with extensive informations. But this isn't Tatooine, vegetating in boredom. No, this is Arrakis, where everything is in motion. Dune Awakening is not only inspired by the original works of Frank Herbert or the current cinema films, but also by real locations such as Mars and others. But various sci-fi films and series also serve as sources here, providing a more universal view of the desert planet and its vegetation for development. The brutalism in Dune, the raw, brutal architecture of the universe, is not only polished by the wind, but also by the developers, so that we as players have enough room to let off steam. It should offer an Arrakis that is not only huge, but also has its own character. It should convey the feeling of being a part of this brutal world, where sun and sandstorms burn and destroy everything in their path, and sandworms devour vehicles like toys. We of course are in the middle of it, little more than a grain of sand, but we will survive. In Dune Awakening, we are thrown into the depths of the desert planet as space castaways in typical MMO fashion, with nothing but a knife made of scrap metal. Our survival strategy is to first infiltrate enemy camps and take by force what we need to survive. Alternatively, we can steal or find materials by peaceful means. The prerequisite for this is, of course, the all-dominant spice and, of course, water on the desert planet. For these resources are the reason why we face this struggle on Arrakis. So the race for the spice drug and the life-giving water can begin. To convey this impression, the developers have come up with quite a few things. Erosion, age and the constant presence of heat and sun shape everything on this planet, and these elements have been incorporated into every detail of the design. Both the nature environment and the architecture bear witness to these brutal circumstances. So we start with sheer survival in the desert and could end up rising to become a power figure. We have just to survive the most dangerous planet in the universe, Arrakis. Of course, water discipline is an important gameplay aspect of this, because we may start out only needing water for ourselves, but in the end we need water in industrial quantities because we can have our base industrialized. So we should be able to experience grip in close combat, range combat, ground and aerial combat. Here the effective coordination of these different areas in a combined arms has been called. That is the clever combination of all these elements which is supposed to be the key to success on the battlefield. And there are also many different types of weapons from across the Dune universe, based on the books and films. These include laser rifles, molar pistols for shooting poison darts, shotguns, pellet guns, laser rifles, molecular pistols through to explosives. In addition, there is a wide range of melee weapons and all kinds of them such as crysknives, kinjals, short swords and rapiers. But we also have access to strategic weapons such as the Sardaukar rifles and laser-guided bombs, as well as ornithopter combat, which allows you to take to the skies and fly over the battlefield. In addition, players have the opportunity to learn skills from the great schools of the universe, such as the skills of the Mentats or the Bene Gesserit and other unions. In the combat situations, of course, typical of Dune, the Holtzman shield also plays an important role, a system that forces players to engage in close combat in order to slowly penetrate the shield, but carrying shields has its pitfalls, of course. So we will be doing more than just running through the desert on foot. Various vehicles up to huge tanks, the spice harvesters, fortifications and also the iconic ornithopters awaits us. But what would Dune be without the familiar political intrigues? Our skills as leaders and tacticians are put to the test when we have to lead our own guild in an increasingly complex political landscape. Guilds, alliances, enmities and political intrigues play an equally important role in the gameplay of Dune Awakening. Thus, our survival shall also directly depend on these skills, forging alliances and knowing enemies, no matter if they are players or NPCs in detail. And with the Canly concept, certain rules of engagement are established, whereby there are areas of the game world where players can interact in different ways, For example, areas where massive player versus player battles are possible, or areas that are very safe thanks to the constant Sardaukar patrols, and PvP battles are much more difficult and risky. So we have the freedom to find our own way. In this, Dune Awakening is based on 5 pillars: survival, politics and intrigue, exploration, the combined arms system, and customization. So it's all about playing the way you want to play. You can be a merchant, a fighter, or even a spy. All of these elements are meant to be integrated into these pillars, as character development and customization is another core aspect of the game. However, despite all the challenges, the political intrigue, Dune Awakening remains first and foremost a true survival MMO game. So we'll always be struggling to gather enough resources, keep our base and objectives running, upgrade our weapons and equipment, and support our own faction. As an open-world experience that we can take into our own hands and shape according to our own wishes, we become the hero of our story. Of course, there are still some unanswered questions. How big are the server capacities? Do we have our own servers, rule sets, a level system, unlocks and much more? But also areas like item shops, monetization, and so on are still unclear. However, we haven't had any bad experiences with Funcom in other titles so far, and according to the developers, the credibility and implementation of the Dune franchise is in the foreground. So there is hope. The player's journey is divided into 4 major parts: survive, protect, expand and control. In the survival phase, the player fights the planet itself, clinging to life. In the protect phase, the player has collected some things, possible, build a base, and now has to make sure that no one else takes them away. In the expansion phase, the player sets his sights on the others and may want to take their possessions. And finally, in the control phase, the player might become part of a guild or AI faction. And typical for an MMO, Dune Awakening also includes an extensive crafting and resource management system. Player can collect resources such as water and spice and then use these resources to build new equipment, weapons, vehicles and buildings. The crafting system also allows players to upgrade and customize their equipment, allowing them to further specialize and individualize their characters. This is implemented with Houdini, a procedural generation tool also used for Star Citizen, Horizon Zero Dawn, Far Cry and many other heavyweights. With it, the huge territory of Arrakis can be filled with life without having to model every stone and every dune individually. This tool can be used to shape the harsh and arid landscapes of Arrakis to the developer's liking, ensuring that each environment we explore is unique. To make the experience even more immersive, a dynamic weather system has also been developed. Whether it's sandstorms or sunsets, every change in the weather not only affects the visuals but also the gameplay. For example, a sudden sandstorm can make you see worse or affect your vehicles. At the same time, they provide natural cover from enemies, so the weather can be your friend or foe, depending on how we use it. But what would Arrakis be without its legendary sandworms? These huge creatures are a threat and a challenge to anyone who ventures onto Arrakis. They are procedurally generated and can appear at any time for added excitement. But be careful, they are not easy to defeat. It takes clever strategies and quick reactions to escape or even defeat these monsters. So, Dune Awakening promises to be a challenging and intriguing game that immerses players in the captivating world of Dune. It is meant to be challenging and to put on skills and tactical thinking to the test. We are really looking forward to seeing how Dune Awakening will develop and will of course keep you up to date here on the channel. See you next time and see you soon on Arrakis.